limited edition Gudetama collaboration, golden honey, black tea with brown sugar, milk with tapioca pearls with 15 grams of sugar and 15 cubes of ice. And that's just like without the additionals. What the fuck is in a Mountain Dew Coke?
There is a clip from the Dragon's Den show that has been sparking a lot of conversation. And this is a conversation that Black people especially have been having in the Black community. And this is a conversation of cultural appropriation. If you don't know what the show is all about, it's basically a show where, they have a guest and then you come and pitch your product, your business to them. And through that, you might be able to get some investors or might be able to get a financial help to just make your brand bigger and get to a better audience. These people came on the show to pitch their product to the guests, and this product is Boba tea. Simu Liu happens to be one of the guests, and he strongly stand against supporting the brand because he pointed out the fact that they did not reference the origin of Boba tea. It's almost giving we want to steal your product. This particular clip is even getting more attention because the other people of color as guests as well were in support of these people and kind of like dismissing the points that Simu Liu was bringing up, like a very serious conversation. It's the cultural appropriation conversation, and secondly, the fact that there is a person of color on the panel dismissing the important points that Simu Liu was trying to bring their attention to. I have put together the clip that is going viral and as well the conversation that people are having about this clip. So without wasting much time, let's get right into it.
I'm concerned about this idea of disrupting or disturbing bubble tea because it's something that's
Why?
very
There
near.
can be new takes on things.
Sure, but I'm looking
not
at
everything
I'm looking
has
at
to be
these two guys.
traditional.
No, but then there's also an issue of cultural appropriation. There's an issue of taking something that's very distinctly Asian in its identity and quote unquote making it better, which I have an issue with. What respect is being paid to this very Asian drink that has blown up around the world? And is it in your teas? Is it in your product development? Who is on your staff? Who's on your cap table that is allowing that for you?
It's a good question because our best partner is in Taiwan, actually. So they make all the recipe, all the boba. We work really hard. We travel to Taiwan. We speak with them. They are part of our team. It's really important for us.
I am studying your can, and I am looking for anything that tells me where boba came from. And where boba came from is Taiwan. I started this venture company for a lot of reasons, but really primarily to uplift minority entrepreneurs. And not only do I feel like this is not happening here, but that I would be uplifting a business that is profiting off of something that feels so dear to my cultural heritage. I want to be a part of bringing boba to the masses, but not like this. So for that reason, I'm out.
It's crazy how they came onto a TV show and completely dismissed the origin of the product that they're trying to sell. This whole bubble tea company that came onto this show, Dragon's Den, is the prime example of Orientalism. Bubble tea is from Taiwan, right? And this Canadian company is trying to sell different variants of bubble tea, which means that they're taking an element from Taiwanese culture and they're not even acknowledging or giving credit to its origin. That feels a little bit weird to me. And this person from the business was like, oh, people are usually not sure about the content. Like, what is there not to be sure about? It's literally made out of milk, tea, water, sugar, and tapioca pearls. And the other person also says it's not an ethnical product anymore. Like, what are you on about? Like, this whole dismissive attitude aligns with the usual tendency to erase or dismiss non-Western cultures. And it subtly reinforces the idea that Western adaptations of cultural elements are more important or legitimate than the original culture itself. I'm glad that Simu called out this company for cultural appropriation, but what's more annoying is this lady who's next to him is like, oh, there can be new takes on things. Not everything has to be traditional. The other hosts, they all don't really care, but maybe I expected something different from her. But yeah, this whole dismissive attitude towards non-Western cultures makes me feel uncomfortable.
What respect is being paid to this very Asian drink that is...
This is what kills me about this whole Dragon's Den episode. It's not just that Simu Liu is naming that this is a huge issue with cultural appropriation with this product, and there isn't any respect really given to the Asian community with the way that this is being rolled out. All that's really upsetting. But what is the most frustrating to me is the fact that The other judges, their reaction to him as if he is making a big deal out of nothing. And I think that when it comes to dealing with racism, this is something that comes up a lot. You name this is the problem because there's cultural appropriation, or there's a microaggression, or it's just flat out racist. And when you name that out in front of your peers, you're told, oh, you're making a big deal out of nothing. And that can cause some of us to have this issue where we start to ask ourselves, like, is this coming out of nowhere? Am I making this all up? Am I making a big deal out of nowhere? And we question ourselves. And what I think is so important when it comes to diversity, equity, inclusion, when it comes to DEI, is to believe people. So I always tell people, you can't always listen to understand, because you don't always understand somebody else's perspective, but we can always listen to believe. Right? So we can believe that when somebody says that this is cultural appropriation or this is inappropriate, taking a step back and listening. But the other judges didn't want to do that. They wanted to make fun of things. They wanted to make it more light. And they were more focused on making good television and keeping it on the up and up and keeping it friendly, and instead of listening to what the actual issue is. And I think that every judge that was on that panel should have been ashamed of the way that they reacted to what Simu was saying. So that was just, it was a tough watch.
Regarding this whole Boba situation, while I am genuinely happy that people are up in arms about it and talking about how awful cultural appropriation is, I do think a whole other separate conversation needs to and should be had as well. Before someone gets on here and twists my words, I know at least one person is going to. Not at all am I saying that this whole Boba situation or whatnot to the Asian community is deserved or should be happening, or like a gotcha one. Like, that's not at all what I'm saying. The Boba situation being awful and what I'm about to say and have a conversation about are both true, and two things can be true at the same time, and some of y'all genuinely need to learn that. But anyway, what I want to talk about is, while I do think that the response to this whole Boba situation is amazing, with people talking about how awful cultural appropriation is, that the creators and originators of something are the people who know it best, people need to stop trying to like change every little thing about certain culture. I do find it very interesting that while Black people, and I'm going to talk specifically about Black Americans, not because other aspects of cultural appropriation aren't important, but as a Black person or a Black American, I am going to talk for us. We have been talking about for years how awful cultural appropriation is, how awful it is, how rude, how inconsiderate, and from all different races, not everyone, but a lot of people did not care. We were called selfish. We were told we should share our culture. We were told that we're setting the whole world back and all these other things. But now that it's starting to happen to other races or whatnot, not even just with this Boba situation, but I've been seeing a trend in, with a whole bunch of different other races and whatnot, on how different aspects of the culture are being gentrified or are being like taken and called something else or whatever, and everyone's up in arms. But when it's happening to other people, then it's a problem. We've been talking about it for years. No one cared. Now listen, I don't care what anyone says. Black Americans have a culture. Sulani people, we have a culture. We have a culture that has been spread throughout the world that many different people of different races, cultures enjoy. And that's not necessarily an issue, because there is a difference between cultural appropriation and cultural appreciation. Black people never had an issue with cultural appreciation. As long as you were doing it respectfully and giving credit where credit was due, we did not have an issue. But then it turned into things like regarding the whole conversation about hair, that we tell people, like, listen, there's certain braids that are meant for Black people. Even if you don't give a fuck about us as a race, like, it's not meant for your hair. It's gonna make it fall out. It has history behind it. We talked about this for God knows how long, and but a lot of people from multiple different races did not give a fuck. We have talked about how it's unfair that we'll create something, we'll like remix it, we'll make it our own, it will be our own, but then as soon as another race comes in and will like call it their own thing or remix it, how that's not okay, and that's appropriation, not appreciation. But when we talked about that, a lot of people didn't care. And another thing I want to say, so no one twists my words, the point of this video is not to be like, oh, well, now that it's happening to y'all see how terrible it is, like, oh, I'm glad it's happening to y'all. That is not at all what I'm saying. Cultural appropriation is a very difficult thing to go through no matter what race you are, and it's generally just a not okay thing to do. So I really don't want people to think that I'm saying I'm glad this is happening to the Asian community, because I'm absolutely not saying that. I do think it needs to be talked about how for years when Black people were saying that cultural appropriation, we don't like it, it's not okay, it's rude, it is disrespectful, particularly since some of y'all, and I'm saying y'all, some people of all races, considering some of y'all don't even respect Black people as a race and don't see us as people, it makes it really frustrating and difficult how some of y'all will not like us, not respect us, not care about us, but then have no issue using our shit. And when we've talked about it, a lot of people did not give a fuck, but now that it's happening to y'all, and y'all being other races, not a specific one, just other races, now people are getting upset about it. I don't know. I just feel like this is a very necessary conversation that needs to have, because it's honestly very exhausting and tiring and everything as a Black person, as a Black race, as a Black community, that when we see something's happening to us, A lot of people, all different races that are not black, will not give a shit. But then what starts happening to other people, then people start to care. And I feel like that's really not fair. It's really not okay, and it needs to be talked about more.
My favorite damn thing about these bubble tea appropriators is they were like, oh, you no longer have to worry about these mysterious contents. What is in the boba that no one knows. Boba is the least mysterious product ever. Every menu item at a bubble tea shop is fucking 2 paragraphs long. It's like limited edition Gudetama collaboration, golden honey, black tea with brown sugar, milk with tapioca pearls with 15 grams of sugar and 15 cubes of ice. And that's just like without the additionals. What the fuck is in a Mountain Dew Code Red? Like,
I want to talk about the Simu Boba thing that just happened. I want to talk about this. It's a timely thing. I'm in bed right now, but I want to talk about it before it's not a thing anymore. I don't mean to insert my opinion as a white person, but I am actually a quarter Korean, and I was largely raised by a Korean woman. I'm going to post this and then go to bed, so I really hope I don't say anything wrong. I remember going to school and bringing Korean dishes and being made fun of for the smell of the food that I brought to school. I watched my grandmother constantly try to whitewash herself and to assimilate into the United States, into American culture, into white culture. And only in the last, forgive me if I'm wrong, but only in the last 10 years have the aspects of Asian culture become very popular. K-pop, boba, Korean dramas, Korean skincare. That wasn't always the case. Asian people faced really, really hurtful stereotypes. And the part that bugged me the most about that whole thing, I understand that English wasn't their first language, and Simu pointed that out, and I appreciate the fact that he did that. But the part that really irritated me was people aren't quite sure of its content. There's always this kind of underlying distrust from white people to Asian people of oh, I don't know what you do, especially when in regards to the content of Asian people's food. I'm not even going to bring up the specific harmful examples that are often associated with that, or just oh, disgusting, they eat these foods and it's so primitive, and just the constant undermining of Asian people and their culture. And this goes for a lot of different cultures, nationalities, ethnicities, from the perspective of white culture. I guess I'm just more aware of the Asian aspect because of my background. And then the fact that he was immediately dismissed by everyone, I really didn't like that. It really struck a nerve with me. Now that Asian people have finally earned their way a seat at the table, and the aspects of their culture is mainstream and cool, now it's being taken away from them and repackaged, which is a tale as old as time. But I'm so glad that it got called out and now it's being talked about.
The craziest thing for me about this boba situation is when black people were trying to have very serious conversations regarding cultural appropriation, everyone, and I mean everyone, including non-black people of color, told us that we were overreacting. They're like, oh, braids is not that deep, hip-hop is not that deep, black culture, specifically black American culture, now has extended into black African, black Caribbean culture. The culture vultures are everywhere in black culture now. We were told that we're overreacting and that we just need to share our culture and that culture is meant to be shared and that, it'll happen eventually, globalization, this, that, and the third. Now that it's happening to y'all, spa water, cucumber salad, boba, now everybody understands the concept. Now it's a big deal. Now it's disrespectful. Now we need to pay attention to the roots of things. But the same people complaining are the same people that are telling us that we are overreacting. Funny how that happened.
My unsolicited opinion about the Boba, Dragon's Den situation. I think that Majid, whatever, I think that's her name, she already invested in them. I think that it was completely staged. I think that it was just a way to advertise their business. And I don't think that they were anticipating getting the backlash that they were going to get, because it makes absolutely no sense why she, as in woman of color, would be okay with a company profiting on somebody else's cultural practices and being completely disrespectful about it. It seems like she already had a stake in what was going on. So I wouldn't be surprised if she didn't already have backing in this company and they just brought them on as a way to advertise the business. And it's coming around to bite her in the ass, because not only are people boycotting the Boba people, they're also listing all of her and her brother's companies, especially the ones that are associated with Costco and the liquor and all that other stuff. They're boycotting those companies as well. So now she gets to see what happens when you sell out against your own people. And also to the Dragon's Den producers, it's not on Simu to make a video to try to cushion some of the backlash that his panel members and co-hosts are facing right now. I've seen a couple different comments that he's made. I've seen the video that he posted. It's not up to him. Like, that's him making a video is not going to stop the opinions of people who are really bothered by what was said. It's just a general consensus. This is not everybody hopping on board because of his opinion. This is exactly what the people are feeling. And he just happened to be the mouthpiece for it. So you sitting there trying to get him to make videos and try to cushion some of the backlash is not going to work. Those companies are getting boycotted. You'll be lucky if your show doesn't get boycotted.
What do you guys think about that video, and what do you think about what they said as well? Do you think Simu Liu was being hard on them? Do you think it was being harsh on them? Because I really want to hear what you guys think. Just a few people who don't agree with what he said are saying that it was being hard on them, which I do not agree with. I don't think it was being hard on them. It was just pointing out something that is very, very important. Even though the conversation of cultural appropriation has been going on for the longest, Black people talk about it, they change it to, oh, it's just cultural appreciation. They like you guys, that's the reason why they are doing it. I don't think Black people will ever have any issues with anyone doing anything regarding their culture if, reference is given where it is due. So let me hear what you guys think about the whole conversation. And the fact that one of them had mentioned that people no longer have to worry about the content. Like, everybody knows what is in a boba tea. Like, you have to be very out of touch to not know what is inside boba tea. They should have said something like, oh, this was a part we never saw put into consideration, but now we are ready to work on it and we will add that to our packaging. But they never said anything like that. They were just saying that people no longer have to worry about the content, like, of what they are consuming. People already know what boba tea is all about. But let me hear what you guys think about that. This person said, this is bullshit because there's still nearly everything involving Black culture and don't give any credit. Why shouldn't they be treated the same? Another one said, it is funny how now everyone gets it when Black people have been saying this sense forever, but we have to sit back and watch everyone profit. They are not lying, to be honest. Another person said, also, boba drink has changed so much and has so much more weird ingredients. Calling it boba sound disrespectful. The only thing they did was to add an extra B, like to add an extra B to it. Another one said they claim that boba tea is usually full of sugar, but you can go to the boba shop and even request for half or less sugar nowadays. You can literally tell them how you want your boba tea. Like, you can even tell them if you want the highs or you don't want the highs. Like, I do not know why they are saying that. Another one said, Simu was so valid here because what do you mean you don't know what is in boba? And why the hell is she telling him, well, you can't put that hold on them? A simple Google search would have helped. And I think this person is referring to the other person of color on the panel saying, oh, it has changed a lot. Everything does not have to be traditional. And as someone who is a person of color herself, she was being called out. She's currently on an apology train. Like, people are even dragging her for the apology she dropped because it almost seems like she was reading it from maybe a phone or a laptop in front of her and just reading it to people. And I'm sure people are still dragging her till now. Another one said, how easy would it have been for them to say, I can see this. We will definitely update our packaging to provide respect to the Asian culture. They just want to steal it. As always, exactly, that would have been a perfect response when Simu Liu brought it up. Like, it would have even made him a bit relaxed and chilled and even consider them like, okay, you're ready to listen to this and take correction, then it's okay. Maybe we can work together. Another one said, this is probably Simu Liu's best take. I hate how all the other investors were laughing at him and shaming him for bringing it up when the founder said nothing about, hey, you're right, and I'm sorry. They were not sorry. Another one said the other judges owe Simu an apology for being so dismissive of his very real concern. The last one I have here said, where their website says it is the very first ready-to-drink boba tea drink, is wild. How is it going to be the very first ready-to-drink boba tea when, to be honest, some of the comments I have even been seeing coming for Simu Liu for what he said was saying that they are not going to be the very first person to package boba tea or to, repackage boba tea. Basically, like, they are not the first. Their own website, they said it is the very first ready-to-drink. Boba. Let me hear what you guys think about this whole conversation. Let me hear what you think about the clip. Let me hear what you think about what Simu Liu said. Let me hear what you think about what the other women of color on the panel as well said, and their reaction, the other guest reaction to what Simu was saying and how they were trying to dismiss him. Let me hear what you think about them literally saying people do not know the content of what is in their boba tea. I am going to see you guys in the next episode.